Hello, I am Jeremy. That is Josh. We are the dads of football. Welcome back. This is week 2 in production, man. It's crazy. Josh and I just experienced tornado-like weather, and so here we
Oh,
are. A little bit after that. Josh, how are you doing?
good. Lost the power tonight. Lost the internet for a moment. Uh, checked on my parents. Checked on my wife's parents. It was quite the hour and a half, 2 hours there. So
Well, I'm
glad to
glad I'm
not
not.
talk about that.
I'm glad I'm not flying solo on this one. So
No, no.
Well, here's what we got going on. First of all, big shout out to our new subscribers. For those of you that subscribed, we had a bunch of people jump on. We appreciate you coming on with us. For those of you that are seeing us for the first time, like, subscribe. We're not just your average dads talking football. We're former journalists that do our research. So you're going to hear numbers, you're going to hear stats. That's why I think we do it better than your average Joe and why you should subscribe to this channel. Today, we are going to be talking Combine. And just for some of you that don't know, Combine starts on Thursday, February 29th. You've got D-line, linebackers. Day 2 is on Friday, March 1st. You've got DBs, tight ends. Day 3, you've got running backs, quarterbacks, receivers, Saturday, March 2nd. And the final day, the big boys, the O-linemen, Sunday, March 3rd. We are going to be talking about each of those, not all in this one video. This video is purely about the D-line and the linebackers. So we're going to be talking DNs, D tackles, linebackers, and we're going to let you go. And then you can process the other ones once we get those out there to you. But we're going to hit you with those before the actual participants hit the field. So you will hear what we're expecting, what to look forward to. So that way, when you watch it, you can vibe with it. And then, of course, after it happens, we'll have a week to break it down. Josh, sound about right?
Sounds great. I mean, it's for football fans, right? We experience the Super Bowl, we have a great time, and then what do you look forward to? Well, you look forward to the combine, you look forward to pro days, you look forward to hearing about who your team is trading up for. It's exciting. It's an exciting time. You feel like you're looking at the future in its rawest form, right? Granted, it is the underwear Olympics, in all fairness, in all honesty, but
Well, here's the thing. So we a lot of the information we're going off of is what's on the NFL's participants list for the combine. Now we know for a fact all of these guys are not going to be participating
yeah.
on the field. Most of them will be showing up and doing interviews, things like that. Mostly the pretty boys that are going to be the top picks are the ones that aren't going to be doing that. We'll talk about those once we get to them. But the nice thing about the D linemen, especially the DNs here, pretty much all of those guys are going to be going. And that's what the list we're going off of right now is how the NFL has graded them out from whoever they have over there doing their thing. And Josh and I are going to kind of give our take. So, Josh, looking at the DNs, who are the guys that you're liking?
So and I've looked at the list a few times and I've tried to figure out who I like the most, right? When it comes to you say D line or D ends?
DNs, I'm sorry, DNs.
D ends.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the D ends, when it comes to the guys that we now call edge rushers, right? Um, I've got three guys that I'm excited about. And then you can share your three, and then we'll come back. And um, I got to tell you, the kid from Penn State, Chop Robinson Jr. There's just something about him. I don't know if it's the name. I don't know if it's the excitement. I don't know if he's 6'3", 255, and he flies off the edge. But there's something about the kid from Penn State. He's athlete and athleticism, in that mold of maybe Micah Parsons, maybe Myles Garrett. I know that's who he's being compared to, but he's explosive. He's a dynamic player. So that's for me, that's like my number three. That's someone I get excited about. Number two, all right, so I've gone back and forth on this one. But the kid from Florida State, Jared Verse, I just a little bit of a different reason than Chop Robinson, right? Same size, very similar size, but again, a guy that's great with his hands, the guy that is going to come flying off the edge, but also he's going to take on the block. He's going to shuck anyone that comes his way, and he's going to work his way to the quarterback. For me, when you get two guys like that are freak athletes that move well, big long arms, fantastic. And then the last one I feel like is a little bit of a phone in, but Dallas Turner from Alabama. I mean, it's hard. not to pick him. Most publications I've seen lately have had him in that top two of your edge rushers. Again, long, athletic. He's your impactful NFL rusher extraordinaire. You know, he's your guy that is going to attack in just about any set, right? Excited to see what he does.
I think we're gonna have our first argument here, Josh.
That's okay.
And we'll get there in a second. I'm gonna go with the guys that I agree with you on. You had two names up there that I agree completely. Jared Verse, FSU. He's the kind of body that you want to see there. And a lot of these guys, it's interesting when you look at just their pure physical stats. They're
Right.
very similar. They're right around 6'3", 6'4", right
Yep.
around 250 pounds. So you can't really look necessarily at the physical and say, okay, just based on the eye test, that one guy necessarily stands out over
For
the
sure.
other. But there's the production. And you had Jared Verse, who's been very consistent, very explosive.
Yep.
And beyond Jared Verse, the other guy I agree with you 100% is Dallas Turner.
Yep.
He's kind of an interesting dude because he's one of those tweeners. Even though he's got some decent size, he's not the biggest of them. I mean, he's 6'4", 245,
Right.
but he's a guy that I figured that you could also put him if you needed him in a 3-4 system. He could play, outside linebacker for you as
Right.
well. He could run off the edge from there. He could do a little bit. I think technically he is the best athlete out of all the DNs. I think he
Yes.
is by far the best athlete. He's going to be. I think when you test him in the 40, he's going to be the fastest. I think he's going to have the best 3-cone drill, which I know
Yep.
you love.
I do.
So I think he's going to be the one that everyone's going to look at his numbers, and I think he's going to bump up a couple of spots. The other guy that's my number 3, because I do not have Chop Robinson there, and I'll talk about that in a second. My number 3 is Laiatu Latu from UCLA,
Yep.
6'5", 261.
Yeah.
So he's really one of the biggest DNs that you're going to see. So he's not necessarily this crazy guy with speed coming off the edge, but he's going to hold the line for you. He's going to cause a lot of problems there. Not necessarily going to be your biggest sack guy. However, he might be your biggest sack guy. You wouldn't think that a guy that's 261 could be your biggest sack guy. If you look at all the top guys right now on the participants list, he has 13 sacks from last season. Nobody has more than him. So he can kind of defies the odds. May not be the fastest, but his power gets through. So those are my top 3. And now I'm going to talk about my most overrated, Chop Robinson.
Yeah.
Here's my problem with Chop Robinson. Yes, if you're just talking about what he should be, everything you said is true. He's dynamic, he's fast. And you could say, well, I'm just agreeing with Josh here for those of you watching. He's very I don't know if I would say this to his face. And I always say, if I'm going to say something about a player, I should be able to say it. I would say it to his face. Chop, if you're out there, I would say this to your face. I'm talking to you. You're delicate. And I'm not, I mean, that comes off really bad. I'm sorry, Chop. But in all honesty, the dude has been injured a lot, and that's not really his fault.
Sure.
And he has the ability, but broken ankle that I think had to be surgically repaired. I think he had some serious shoulder injuries. He basically lost 2 years of college.
Yeah.
He wasn't productive last season because of injuries. I think he had 15 total tackles. Now, here's the beautiful thing. In the limited sample that we had of him, he had 4 sacks and he barely played. So the talent's there, but can he stay on the field? That would scare the hell out of me if I'm a GM.
Yeah, I know one of the things that they've said is because of those injuries, right? You look at the numbers and you're going, okay, so in this limited time, he's been dynamic. And there's no question the little bit of film that, I was able to watch during the year and then can look up now. He's definitely gonna have to learn to take on blockers, right? That limited time has probably left him with, I don't want to say an inability, that is not accurate. But if you're gonna take a shot at a guy, right, a guy that hasn't had as much time on the field against elite blockers in all cases over the course of 2, 3, maybe 4 years, I think that does call to question what he'll actually be. But again, there's something about the name. There's something about the dynamics of his athleticism. He holds a firm edge. He's going to own the end of the line. He's going to attack downfield, down line. That part of it is exciting, right? The overall pursuit speed is exciting. So I don't know that we necessarily are disagreeing. I think it's more, can he stay healthy?
Can he stay healthy?
Yeah.
He
So
scares me. That's just the only thing that scares me. If I look at that rap sheet, I'm just saying I can't take him
yeah,
in that first round only for that reason that I might be I would be looking at a Dallas Turner before him. Let's put it that way.
I think. Oh, no question, no
Mhm.
question. Again, I don't know that he is for sure first round material. In terms of the three guys that I like, I toss him out there because of what I think he can be. Right, he's unpolished, and once he gets there, and once he has the opportunity to be coached up, assuming he remains healthy, I think his athleticism alone makes him exciting.
Someone's going
It's
to take it. Someone's going to take the
for
risk and
sure.
take him first round. I think he's going first round.
Probably, I would think maybe in that 12 to 22 range. So
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I was thinking the number that popped in my head was 18. So I'm right
yeah,
there with you.
yeah.
Um, Taking a look at the list, I mean, and there's a long list here of guys. Is there a guy that's maybe on the bottom of the list that you think could surprise people?
On the bottom of the list,
Yeah, maybe lower half, maybe a guy that's not one of those top 10 or 15 guys that's listed. Is there someone there that excites you? Because I have a name in mind.
go ahead.
My guy is Brennan Jackson out of Washington State University. He's again, same type of body type as a lot of guys, actually more like
Yeah,
Latu in the fact that he's a bigger DN, 6'4", 264. He's not going to blow anyone away with his athleticism, but he's one of those guys
yeah,
that's just a football player. I mean, if you look at his production year after year, he's done it.
right.
57 tackles, total tackles last season, 8.5 sacks. He may not put up big numbers in the combine, but that dude is a football player. He knows how to play football. He cares. He tries. He's one of those guys that I think is going to find time on the field and open people's eyes purely with his football IQ and how hard he plays the game.
Sure.
He is going to overachieve. That's my guy.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a guy that far down on the list. But there is somebody that I think is sneaky, and this is where the combine excites me, right? Being able to watch the workouts. Um, Again, this isn't someone on the bottom of the list. I almost feel like this is unfair. um, but the kid opposite, Turner, Chris Braswell out of Alabama. Again, not a guy at the bottom of the list, but he is a guy that I wonder if he can get himself into that top 3, 4. I think ultimately you've got to burst off the line, which he's proven, right? Seems to have an incredible football IQ, knowing where to go, reacting to what's going on in the backfield, and then just throw out the very simple fact that he's got length. He's another guy, maybe not huge, right? To your point, 6'5",
Mhm.
but he's 6'3", 255, right? Another that guy that's going to fly off the edge, take on blockers. And he's played 4 years of college football. It's when you talk about your chop and the things that concern you, the Chop Robinson things that concern you. Chris Braswell will not be that. So again, not at the bottom of the list. Probably not fair, but
Yeah, that I mean, the point that you made though, he's a guy that is top 10, but isn't
right,
necessarily top 5,
right,
where I
right.
think he could eke into it. I'm gonna kick off the D tackles. So if we're talking top D tackles, my top three, Tavondre Sweat, uh,
Yep,
brother of Montez Sweat. So you have a family lineage there. You've got a bloodline.
yep,
You know that he's a football player.
yep.
So for me, he's the guy that I like. Plus, he's the biggest D tackle in the
He's huge.
draft. He's 362 pounds.
Yes,
So
at 6'4", at
at
6'4",
6'4". So
362.
so plug him right there at your nose guard. You don't have to
Yep.
worry. He will fill up that. Even if he doesn't get a ton of penetration off the line, he'll take up space. I like him for that reason.
He's a
Um,
run plugger. I mean,
he's a run
I'm with you
plugger.
100%.
My next guy would be Johnny Newton out of Illinois. Not the biggest D tackle,
Right.
but probably I would say the most productive. 52 total tackles, 7.5 sacks. He gets
Yeah.
the job done. He gave Iowa problems, which I paid attention to him during that game.
Yep.
It impressed me a lot. And U of I, for as much guff as I may give friends of ours about U of I and their college
Right.
football team, they actually have a number of guys here that I think could be really good, productive NFL players. I
Yeah.
think to me, Johnny Newton, if he makes it past the first round, someone's getting a steal. He's a dude that I really enjoy. And then it's interesting. You've got a number of guys there, and it kind of drops off for me. Everybody else, other than those two, is kind of losing it for me. I'm not seeing a ton of guys there. I guess if I have to go for a number three, I'm gonna go for a bit of a stretch here. Mekhi Wingo from LSU, kind of similar in body size and play to Johnny Newton to me. Not a guy that's gonna maybe be the first or second round, but a guy that I think could be pretty productive and is going to be a good football player for you.
So I think the first two, no question. And really no disagreement even on your third. But as I mentioned to you the other day, there's something about this kid from Missouri, Darius Robinson, 6'5", 286 pound. He's a monster. He's physical. He's got great length. He takes on all blockers. And he's just scrappy. I feel like that's what you get out of Mizzou, right? It's what you get out of the Tigers right now. And I'm very interested to see what that quickness looks like at the pro level. Again, great arm length is only going to give him control at the point of attack to then work off blockers and make the play, right? Again, not quite as big as some of the other guys, but just a freak athlete. Just excited
Now,
to see what he do.
here's the thing with him, Robinson. I mean, he could be playing DN because they've got him
Yes.
listed right now in that position. Now he's got the body style where you would say he is really a tweener there.
Yes.
So it really depends. I mean, you could shift him around. He's one of those guys that shifty. You could play him inside. You could play him outside.
Yep.
He's that good of an athlete. Now, if he bulks up, you're gonna have to play him inside.
And
I'm
that's
gonna tell
probably
you.
going to be the move.
Yeah, I
Like
think that is going to be the move. That's a good point. And I didn't really even think of him
yeah.
necessarily at D tackles. But you're probably right. Yeah, he probably would be a top guy there. I'll give you my most overrated, and it's the
Yeah.
number one. I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
Number one rated D tackle, Byron Murphy, out of Texas. Yes, he has good numbers.
Yep.
He's athletic, probably the most athletic D tackle you're going to see there.
For a
Um,
6'1", 308 guy.
yes, for a 6'1", 308 guy. Um, there's just something about him where I get it that he's athletic, he's got a burst. The numbers are good, not great. I think people are falling in love with the 5 sacks. Didn't have a ton of tackles for me, and I think I need to see a little bit more production. Yes, Sweat's not going to get the same amount of sacks. He's not going to get the same kind of penetration, but he's going to take up space, and I don't see Byron Murphy doing that. I think you could get more production out of a guy like Johnny Newton than you can out of Byron Murphy. So I don't think Byron Murphy's bad. I just
Yeah.
don't think he's the number one D tackle.
Yeah, I've been surprised how quickly he's moved up. And sometimes I wonder if when these guys go to Texas and they were born in Texas, if they're given a little bit of extra love. But there's something about that 6'1", 308 frame, compact, not quite as long of arms. It's just when it comes to taking on blockers, that's something that always fascinates me out of your interior guys, right? You want someone that's going to be able to navigate against the blocker, throw to the side. And there's something about Murphy that I'm with you actually, Quinn. And we didn't even talk about this, but that
Mhm.
is 100%. I'm looking at a piece of paper right now that says it. So, what about the Michael Hall Jr. out of Ohio State?
I
6'2".
he's now there's a couple of guys here where I look at them and I look at what they were when they were coming out of high school into
Right,
college
right.
and were those like 4-star type guys that, you know, should have been bigger than what they were. And to
Yes.
me, he kind of fits into that. And unfortunately, with the D tackles, you have a number of guys that had a lot of hype and didn't necessarily put that production out there. I thought his numbers were underwhelming.
Yep.
So he's to me is not one of those guys that I would elevate. I might take a chance, you know, fourth round and beyond that. Yeah, if he's still there, then I'd take him. That'd be great. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't take him in the top 3. And I think you could say that with a lot of guys. Mason Smith, Leonard Taylor. Leonard
For
Taylor, I
sure.
want to say, was a 5-star dude. And just never really put it together. So the talent's there, but there's something missing.
I agree. I agree. And I guess that's why I bring it up because I've heard his name recently on a couple other podcasts, but also on the radio. And I just haven't seen anything that has been that exciting about him. I almost get more excited about the kid out of FSU, Fisk, Braden Fisk, and what he can do as an athlete. You want to talk about a
Mm-hmm.
guy that might move out to the edge? That's Fisk. He's 6'5", 297.
Mm-hmm.
So guys like that interest me. Again, this is where the combine gets so exciting is you have these opportunities to see an apple versus an apple, right? You get to see them compete next to each other, with each other. Again, the 40 is sexy. Everyone likes the 40. It's a big number. You get excited to see it. like you and I have talked about, I want to see the 3-cone drill. I want to see how they navigate with their hips in and out of breaks and how they adjust to speed. And Fisk is the kind of guy, because of that length, because of that size, if he were to go into the interior, I want to see what that looks like. So
now linebackers, our last position for
yeah,
this chat. I gotta say, we just talked about two positions that have a ton of depth.
yeah,
Linebackers, they're lacking in depth. They do not have the
completely.
same depth that they had last year. Um, they're missing a lot of pieces there. Now, do they have a couple solid guys? Yes. My top three, I'm just going to kind of shoot them out there.
Yep, of
Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Penn State,
course.
um, Peyton Wilson, NC State University, and my number three would be Cedric Gray from UNC. Those are
Yep,
the three guys I like the most. Having said that, I don't know if any of those three guys is a first rounder. If anyone's going to go in the first round, I think it would be Trotter.
yep,
But even seeing Trotter, he's got to be your classic middle linebacker. He's kind of short. He's not the heaviest guy. He's 6 foot
right.
230, but he's got a motor. He's very intelligent. Obviously, we know that there's football in his DNA. His
Yep,
dad was a hell of a football player.
yep,
So undersized, but a guy that I think could plug up the middle and just can make things work. To me, he's maybe the smartest linebacker of the group in decision making, coverages. I think he's just got a better IQ than the rest.
yep.
Peyton Wilson to me is maybe the best workhorse out of the group. And then there's just something about Cedric Gray that I like looking at his film. Another guy, ton of tackles. I think he had 121 tackles. Those would be my top three.
Yeah, I want to talk about Jeremiah Trotter just a tiny bit longer because for
Mhm.
me, he is the number one linebacker. The
Yes.
simple fact that he comes from um, the bloodline that he does, right? That his father was a Pro Bowler. He was fantastic. I get it. He's 6 foot 230. Maybe there's some questions, but here's a guy who slips blocks. Here's a guy who knows when to attack. Here's a guy you're going to be able to use in blitz packages. Here's a guy you're going to be able to use to attack in gaps. And I think that is rare. Um, would it be shocking for him to not go in the first round? Yeah, arguably. Um, but I think whoever gets him, right, you're going to get a guy who um, comes to work. He brings his lunch pail. He's balanced. He raps. He hits hard. I mean, everything you want out of a linebacker, right? The consistency. It's one thing to have the dynamic athleticism without the ability to wrap up and make tackles, but I think that comes with that IQ that you acknowledge, right? Understanding how to finish tackles both in space, but also in the mix around the line, right? When you're talking about making plays in the box, he strikes me as that kind of player. He excites me. Um, love him. Love him. I get it. He's not very big. He's not very long. So, for a lot of our linebackers today, that's what we're looking for. But fantastic, right? I'm with you on Peyton Wilson. I'm kind of curious, and you and I have talked about this before with the ACC and with guys that come out of NC State, guys that come out of UNC, wherever it might be. It'll be interesting to see how he does. He's 6'4", 238. I mean, he's a big
He's a
boy.
big
He's
dude.
a big
Yeah.
boy that can work. However, he's also a guy that was a multi-sport star in high school. He was, I
Mhm.
believe, a 4-star coming out of high school, but was also a very good basketball player. To me, when you get guys like that, right, who are going to test off the charts, now it's like, okay, let's go back to the tape. And you wonder if he has played enough against teams that tested him, right? So, so fascinating to me. No love for Junior Colson, huh? No love for Michigan guy, huh?
He is going to be my most overrated player
Okay.
in this grouping right now. So I think it's a clean sweep. I think
Yeah.
I overrate. I said each of the top rated guy. Oh, granted, Chop Robinson was rated number 2 out of DN. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think Junior Colson is heavily,
Yeah.
heavily overrated. And there is a thing that connects these guys, and it's production. Now,
For sure.
95 total tackles, which is good, but he had no sacks. He had no
Correct.
interceptions. He's not doing the other things that changes a game for me. And when I see that, I went back and I looked at his film, and even the evaluations from the NFL guys in there, where
Right.
they talk about his indecisiveness and playmaking ability, that
Right.
he's got all the athletic tools, but up here, that switch that has to turn on to say, oh, they're running. Let me go
Right.
attack someone. oh, they're passing. He's not a great guy in coverage to me. Could he be? Yes, but if you haven't figured it out by now, I don't know. That scares me. So yeah, I think Junior Colson will probably light it up at the combine. He may
Oh
have
yeah,
all the those sexy numbers that people want to see, but when it comes to football IQ, I mean, I think you have a lot of smarter linebackers even further down the list that just don't have the athletic ability, like a Tommy Eichenberg out of Ohio State. To me, is a smarter football player. He just
yeah.
doesn't have the athletic ability.
Yeah, and I think you also have guys like the guy from Notre Dame, Maris Liafu,
Mhm.
who tremendous athlete, 6'2", 239, can fly. Um,
Yeah.
to me, I wonder if he and then the only reason why I asked about Junior is I have been reading a lot about him lately, right? And his
Mhm.
ability to make big hits. Well, big hits are one thing. Do you make the big plays, particularly in space and in coverage as a linebacker today? Because that is such a part of the NFL now, right? Linebackers that can not just scrape and flow to tackle, but also get out and make plays again in space. So I do I'm interested to see how the combine goes, particularly with the linebackers, because I don't think the depth is there. Does the kid out of Notre Dame spark any real interest for people? You gotta love the story. He's another Hawaii guy, so
Yeah, he's a guy I would love to fall in love with, but again, the
yeah,
lack of production just scares me. And again, athletic ability is there, but between the ears, I don't know if he's fully figured it out yet.
sure, sure,
Now, one thing before we sign off here, because again, you did bring up Colson here, Junior
yeah,
Colson, Michigan. We're going to be talking about Michigan a lot because they have a lot of NFL players that are going to be in this draft. Obviously, they're the national champions. Yes, they were the best team. However, I don't think that they're a team that necessarily is going to have a bunch of guys that are necessarily those five-star type of dudes. I think they're a team that had a lot of B minus NFL talent,
yeah,
and that's what we're going to see. I think a lot of guys have maybe gotten pushed up the list because of their production as a team, and I think have just been overrated because when we get lower into the list and we start seeing Michigan guys there, whether it's Blake Corum or JJ
right.
McCarthy, I think a lot of those guys are solid, but they're not going to be those big name Pro Bowl, all pro type guys. I think they're going to be decent, but I don't think they're going to be superstars. And Colson's kind of that dude to me.
Yeah, that's why I asked about him. Like I just again, the more you read about him, the more you hear about him. He's a junior, he's a talented athlete. He gets people excited because he was on the national champion. But to your point, I feel like they were the national champion because that roster was created with a significant amount of depth, but there was no one there at the top that was, for me, all that exciting. So,
I agree. Well, I think, broke that down pretty well. Next video, we'll have DBs, which includes cornerback, safeties, tight ends. That'll be the next one. And then obviously, we have the rest of the combine to talk about, but that's coming for the future. That will wait for another time. Josh, as always, it's been a pleasure, my man.
always fantastic. Can't wait to talk about the next wave of players.
Till next time.